that I had been talking with about it. So everybody's going to talk.
Good, nothing else, Dr. Scheid, on this?
Nothing else.
area? Public comment, Mrs. Furlong, are you still interested?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Actually, I want to hear some information. My comment is very short. Sue Furlong, West Rock Hill Township. I was just kind of curious sitting there, and it seemed like we had an influx of ninth graders with reading difficulties. And the thing that popped into my head was Reading Street. It was supposed to have immediate feedback, and you were supposed to be able to immediately differentiate between the different students and how well they were performing, and if they weren't performing well, what area they were falling short on. And so I'm just curious, is this program living up to what we had hoped it would? I personally voted for it, and so I, had high hopes. And then it was kind of ironic to hear, okay, we're trying to assess these children and catch them early, and then, oh, but we don't want to give tests. So that seems sort of a, at odds proposition there. But if somebody could just address the impact of Reading Street, either positive, negative, or neutral. I'm just curious because, it's been in place for 3 or 4 years now, and, is it working or is it not working?
Yeah.
So that's a big question. Is it working or is it not working? Because we want to know exactly what we're measuring. Could we improve upon what we're doing at the elementary school? Yes, we can. We can improve upon what we're doing at every level. But I do personally think that it is important to have a focused inquiry of the elementary program for one of the reasons you just stated. We had so many students when we had a particular assessment put in place where we identified that they really were still struggling readers. So that does give us impetus to study the elementary program. So I absolutely agree with you that we should be looking at that, because it would stand to reason that if it was put in place to meet the needs of all learners, and we still have learners whose needs we haven't met, we need to go back and really inquire and see where we need to improve upon there.
Mrs. Hilary.
Diane Herring, Hilltown Township. Just 2 items. Comment 1, I'd like to thank Dr. Werner and Dr. Scheid for getting back to me regarding ACT testing in the building. As a suggestion I made to them, our current, it sort of ties into your next meeting for technology, our current website in the district is not exceptionally easy to navigate. And currently the only place that you can actually find a listing for SAT and ACT is under the guidance department. And I counted the clicks. If you're going through Pennridge.org, it takes you 11 clicks to get to the page that you can actually find the test schedule on. I also noted that when we do a calendar for the district, whether printed or not, those test dates, although they're set a year in advance, are not listed. They're not published on a calendar. So consequently, it made me go to the next level, which is something I'll bring up in the technology committee meeting, is the use of Naviance and the lack of parent portal access for it without using your student ID. So in terms of what you're talking about, and Mrs. Cullen pointed out, and getting the community involved, that means getting parents involved. And if parents are struggling to get the information, and I mean, call a spade a spade. I come to meetings probably more than 95% of the average parent, and I have to get up and ask the question, do we host the ACT? I mean, when you think about the reality of that statement, it doesn't bode well for the 50%, 60% who, don't really know, and you want them involved, you need them involved to help their kids' education, and I can't find that information. Second, regarding the Keystones and opting out, I know we're talking about 2 years that they're not required, but for my own clarification purposes, I have a student with an IEP. I have long considered about opting him out of the English writing one that is normally required. My question is, what years are we actually talking about? Graduating classes of which one? Because when you say 2 years, I'm sitting here going, well, are we talking class of 16 and 17, or are we talking 16, 17, 18? That's really just a question whether you can answer it now or not.
It's 17 to 19.
So it's actually really 3 academic years. It's 16, 17, 18, and the class of 19, it's 4 years then.
It's not 4 years of students. It's only 2 years that it will not be a requirement for proficiency.
Okay, so if a student's graduating class of 2018, for example, is my question, are they required to have passed those Keystones to graduate?
No, take
Up
the
to,
test.
oh, I'm sorry. They have to take the Keystone. The requirement to be proficient is what is no longer until 2019,
Okay,
which was 2017.
fair enough.
Okay.
Can you opt a student out of a Keystone?
Yes, you can opt a student out of Keystones and PSSAs. We've had them for the last couple of weeks.
Along the lines of what Mrs. Cullen was saying then, if you want your community involvement, perhaps you should spell it out and clearly communicate to the public in a letter that what your rights are in terms of opting out of Keystones. You might see a bigger incentive, in terms of people participating and voicing an opinion on whether they choose or not. It might give you more information sooner rather than later and waiting till next year's test date if the tests aren't until May.
I posted everything on the website and sent out an email to everybody explaining where it was and the opt-out rights, and we sent it out through Blackboard Connect. So I sent that, I sent home a letter, I have a link, I think I did it in 3 different places. I did everything.
That was like, but what I'm saying is that that's like, what's here and now. So maybe you might want to send a reminder or Blackboard Connect is all I'm saying, that when you get closer to the test date. Because a lot of times people get things, we all get them, and you say, oh yeah, I'll get to it. And one person had said, my kid has to be opt out, I forgot to do it on the timeline. We all do it. So, I'm just kind of saying that maybe, it's great if you post it and everything, but what's in front of you now when it's real and live and you know your student's going to be facing that testing, that's just a thought, that maybe it's a live environment kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just making a quick comment.
Yes.
Mrs. Herron spoke about the ACT. I just wanted to note that she did ask at a previous meeting, and Dr. Scheid did answer Mrs. Herron's question and to the board, but just so the public, which is mostly teachers here, except for our 2 public members here, the ACT was held here this past Saturday at 8 a.m. So just for the record, it was held here.
Any other public comment for the curriculum debate? If not, we'll adjourn this meeting, and we will next go to the technology. I believe Mr. Krause has kindly, since Mr. Casper isn't here, Mr. Krause has kindly agreed to be the chair tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. Do we want